Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Marvel, starting with the God of Destruction. Chapter 1. In the vast starry sky, a spherical spacecraft is flying towards the Earth. In the spaceship, Vegito slowly opened his eyes and looked at the blue planet in the distance. After more than 10 years, he finally came back again. The universe is far more complex than imagined. There are not only Marvel's 5 native creation gods, the Celestials, and the Eternal Titans. There are even angels, demons, and even the death god Karl of the Styx galaxy, the sun god of heavenly civilization. Over the past 10 years, Vegito has grown step by step from a young boy who first came to the universe to survive among the major forces, to the only god among the 6 gods in the universe who is not an innate god, the god of destruction. Together with eternity, Galactus, death, infinity, and annihilation, they are called the 6 true gods of the universe. This time, Vegito returned to Earth for revenge. To take revenge on those who had harmed him and his family. Vegito is a Saiyan. When he opened his eyes, the first thing he saw were his adoptive parents on Earth. And his adoptive parents named him Vegito. Vegito spent his entire childhood on Earth. He is different from most other children in that he has a monkey tail behind him. In this world full of changes, his adoptive parents thought he was just an ordinary mutant. Even Vegito himself thinks so. Even so, his adoptive parents treated him like their own son. Even Vegito's adoptive father, who was just an ordinary person, spent a lot of money to send Vegito to Mutant Academy, Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters. Vegito vaguely remembers that his ability was not outstanding at that time, but he was just a little stronger. Therefore, the X-Academy gave him a rating of only level 2 at that time. No doubt compared to ordinary people, he had a little fighting ability but obvious weaknesses. He didn't care about this at that time. He has a kind father, a gentle mother, a kind teacher, and a group of classmates and friends. What if there is no combat ability? He neither wants to be a superhero nor a super criminal. I just want to be an ordinary person. However, the tree wants to be quiet, but the wind does not stop. Until that incident happened, forcing Vegito to leave the Earth. It also lets Vegito know that the tail behind him is proof of Saiyan blood. More than 10 years later, Vegito came back again, with unparalleled power, riding back on the spaceship he left on. This time, no one can stop him from taking revenge. Boom! The spherical spaceship landed on the streets of a city without any buffer. The hatch slowly opened, and Vegito stepped out step by step. After more than 10 years, I looked at this once familiar planet again. I saw that the surrounding streets were already in ruins, and there was only one person on the damaged streets. The sirens are ringing. All the civilians had already evacuated, but Vegito saw many well-equipped soldiers around him. There are many gunships flying in the sky. In the distance, there seemed to be 2 huge amounts of humanoid monsters fighting. It was the Hulk and the Abomination. The surrounding soldiers did not even have the courage to shoot at these 2 monsters. Because the last person who fired at Hulk and Abomination had been torn into pieces by these 2 monsters. It seems that these people's habit of seeking death has not changed at all. Looking at the surrounding environment, Vegito said disdainfully. Because of what happened that year, Vegito had an instinctive dislike for the soldiers in front of him. The humanoid monsters were fighting. He also stopped subconsciously and looked at the flight machine falling from the sky. Hands up! Under the command of a man wearing a general's uniform, the surrounding soldiers immediately surrounded Vegito, and pointed his weapon at Vegito. After all this time, these people are still so ridiculous. Vegito seemed to recall something bad. You scum with a combat power of less than 5. You don't have the courage to point your gun at those 2 monsters, but you dare to point it at me. As Vegito's words fell, the terrifying aura overwhelmed everyone around him and it was difficult to breathe. These soldiers felt that the humans in front of them seemed to be more terrifying monsters than the Hulk. Fire! General Ross became anxious as he watched his soldiers gradually lose their courage. He made an order that he would regret for the rest of his life. Bang bang bang! Following General Ross's order, gunfire erupted one after another. All aimed at Vegito, who had just stepped out of the spaceship. For a moment, the entire army was on full fire. Even the Hulk would be injured under such firepower. The smoke dissipated, and where the firepower was concentrated, a figure slowly stepped forward. There was not a single wound visible on his body, and even his clothes were as good as new, with no trace of being bombarded by artillery fire. Gulu, countless soldiers couldn't help but swallowed. Under that kind of firepower, he remained intact. How can this be? How long has it been since no one dared to shoot me? Vegito murmured. Ever since he became the god of destruction in this universe, no one has dared to shoot at him. Although these bullets hit Vegito's body without any pain or itching, there was not even any damage to the corners of his clothes. These years of experience in the universe have already enabled Vegito to activate the Saiyan character buried deep in his blood. Irritable, cruel, and indifferent to life. Circles of air waves began to spread under Vegito's feet, and the floor under Vegito's feet began to crack. A terrifying aura emanated from Vegito's body, impacting the surrounding ordinary people holding firearms. Since you dare to shoot me, be prepared to die. To deal with these ordinary people, Vegito doesn't even need to take action himself, he can crush them all to death with just his momentum. Thump, thump, the soldiers around him felt as if a weight as heavy as a floor was pressing down on them. One by one, they couldn't control their trembling legs and knelt down in front of Vegito. Roar, roar, not far away, Hulk and Abomination roared at the same time. On Vegito, they felt unprecedented pressure. So, the Abomination decided to deal with Vegito, who was the biggest threat to him, first, and then Hulk. Hulk, on the other hand, is simply mentally retarded and feels that Vegito is the most dangerous person. By various coincidences, Hulk and Abomination almost simultaneously attacked Vegito. Roar, unlike Abomination, which can retain intelligence, Bruce Banner has no intelligence at all in the Hulk state. At least in the early stages, the Hulk only knows how to destroy and hit the enemies in front of him. Abomination, however, retained the memory and wisdom of when he was a human. However, while gaining these, Abomination forever lost the qualification to transform back into a human being. The less intelligent Hulk charged at Vegito first. The huge body seemed particularly flexible at this time. A huge giant shot up like a cannonball and hit Vegito's head. Interesting. Vegito knew that this guy's power would continue to increase with anger. As for the upper limit of combat power, no one knew, and no one had tested it. I don't know if this big guy can make him move his muscles a little. Roar. The Hulk is already close at hand. With that kind of pure power, even a skyscraper will be shattered into pieces by the Hulk's brutal collision. He's finished. Everyone thought so. Until now, except for the equally giant Abomination, no one could withstand such a blow from the Hulk. Even an ordinary soldier can tell that the Hulk definitely used all his strength in this move. Under such a heavy blow, ordinary people can only be crushed into pulp. Hulk Banner is indeed very strong. At least, on Earth, Hulk is definitely one of the strongest. Unparalleled strength and endurance, the ability to jump like flying, an indestructible body, and extremely strong self-healing ability. Unfortunately, he met Vegito. Vegito gently stretched his fist forward to block his body. After appraising the Hulk's current strength, he, gently, popped out his index finger and hit the oncoming Hulk. Boom! Huge amounts of roaring sounds were heard. Immediately afterwards, the Hulk bounced back 10 times faster than when he came. The buildings behind him fell down one by one, but the Hulk's flight speed did not slow down at all. How is it possible? How can humans have such power? General Ross said in disbelief on the armed helicopter in the distance. Originally, General Ross thought that the Hulk was the ultimate power that humans could possess. But now, in front of this alien, the Hulk was like a newborn baby, being knocked away without any resistance. At the same time, the eyes looking at Vegito became intense. At this moment, General Ross wants Vegito more than the Hulk. General Ross, known as General Thunderbolt, is a famous hawkish general in the military. The huge amounts of ambition made General Ross not afraid at this moment, but instead turned the fear in his heart into greed. When desire exceeds reason, IQ will seriously drop at this moment. At the same time, it was not only General Ross who was suppressed, but also the hatred that followed. The person in front of him is very powerful, and his hatred can be felt. But Abomination never expected that Hulk would be knocked away in just an instant. I can feel the hatred. Even if I have abnormal recovery ability, this moment will definitely not feel good. Abomination, who stopped attacking, immediately wanted to run away. He is not the brainless idiot like Hulk. The intelligent abomination understands that he is absolutely no match for the enemy in front of him. Escape. Hatred immediately decided to turn around and run away. He has the same speed as Hulk, and in the blink of an eye, he escaped hundreds of meters. Little insect, where are you going? Just when Abomination thought he had run far away, a voice suddenly came into his ears. The figure was standing less than 3 meters in front of him. How is that possible? Hatred said in disbelief. Obviously, he was so far away from me just now, but in the blink of an eye, he had already escaped very far. But why? Why did he suddenly appear in front of him? Hatred had absolute confidence in his speed, but now, this person appeared in front of him as if he could move instantly. It was obviously too late to turn around and run away again. At a distance of 3 meters, even if you stop immediately, inertia will bring you to him. Therefore, Abomination immediately raised his fist and waved it towards Vegito, who was close at hand. Hatred knew clearly that although he had used all his strength in this attack, it would not be any stronger than Hulk's attack. He wanted to use the power of this attack to escape. The intelligent Abomination knew that it would be best if Vegito knocked Hulk away like he was flying. Even if he would suffer some injuries, he would be able to stay away from the battlefield. If Vegito didn't knock him away and chose to take this blow forcefully, he could use the reaction force to turn around and escape. A white palm stretched out and blocked the hateful fist. The two palms, one larger and one smaller, are completely out of proportion. But at the moment of contact, Hatred felt as if he was in head-on collision with the earth, unable to shake the other party at all. For the first time, Hatred wanted to take out his hand and escape, but found that he couldn't take his hand out. Even if it takes just a moment, Hatred can easily collapse, but now, he can't take out his palm. His palm seemed to be clamped by iron wedges. No matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't shake the palm that was not as big as his fingers. Roar. Hatred tried his best to break free, but there was no success at all. It seems that your combat effectiveness does not increase with anger. After some testing, Abomination's combat effectiveness did not increase significantly at all. Vegito also lost interest in him. He was too weak, so weak that Vegito couldn't show any interest when faced with Hatred. If that's the case, then go to hell. Abomination could clearly see that a light was gathering in Vegito's palm. And his fist, in front of that light surface, was as fragile as toilet paper that had been soaked in water for a day. No, I will die. Abomination was shocked for a moment and tried desperately to take out his palm, but it had no effect at all. Abomination could clearly see that his fist had been swallowed up by the light wave. It was as resilient as Hulk, but it did not repair the wound at all. He could clearly feel that under such power, he had no other choice but to turn into ashes. Gulu. Countless soldiers around him were stunned. The monster they had no control over was destroyed so easily. Is this possible? You know, even a tank can hardly leave a scratch on any monster. Vegito, who was wiped out and hated, was in no hurry to leave. Because, he has felt that Hulk's energy seems to have become much stronger. Saiyans all have a common problem, that is, they like to fight and experience the feeling of fighting. They obviously have the combat power to kill their opponents in an instant. But when encountering an opponent of interest, he always likes to suppress his own fighting power and fight with the opponent. The Hulk in front of him obviously has the qualifications to interest Vegito. It just so happened that after being on the spaceship for so long, Vegito also wanted to stretch his muscles. The next moment, Vegito had appeared next to Hulk. At this time, Hulk's size became obviously larger than before. Likewise, the strength and speed must be far greater than before. Roar. The angrier he gets, the less rational he becomes. Hulk, who is not very intelligent, has already lost his mind because of his anger. Hulk, completely losing his mind, rushed towards Vegito again. Countless pieces of mud and rocks rose into the sky. Hulk slammed into Vegito once again. It's still too weak. The power that is enough to destroy a mountain is still just childish in Vegito's opinion. To deal with Hulk at this time, Vegito doesn't even need to transform into a Super Saiyan. Not to mention the states of Saiyan God, Super Saiyan God, and the ultimate intention Kung Fu. Once again, Hulk was suppressed by Vegito like a child. A palm appeared on top of Hulk's head, pressing Hulk towards the ground. Roar. Hulk roared, roaring, trying to break away from the hand pressing on his head. But it couldn't shake him at all. Vegito easily pushed Hulk into the ground, and the concrete floor was easily crushed by Hulk's head. Hulk put his hands on the ground, trying to break free from Vegito's restraints. Unfortunately, Hulk's proud strength could not stop Vegito for a moment. Not long after, Hulk's entire head was pressed deeply to the ground by Vegito. Roar! Hulk has never felt as angry as at this moment. In a short period of time, Hulk's size grew again and his strength increased again. Is this all you have, power? Obviously, Vegito was not satisfied with Hulk's growth in strength. If Hulk is only at this level, it may not be able to satisfy Vegito's desire to stretch his muscles. In Vegito's eyes, Hulk is too weak. Even at the moment Hulk can easily sink an aircraft carrier. Anger is just the product of impulse. After the impulse, no matter how low Hulk's intelligence is, he realizes that he cannot be the opponent of the human in front of him. Even Hulk started to get scared at this moment. The huge body began to slowly shrink, and the green skin returned to normal in a short period of time. Hulk flinched. He never wanted to face Vegito again, because Hulk knew that no matter how angry he was, he could not be a match for the monster in human skin in front of him. If he continues to fight, he will only die. So, at this moment Hulk stepped back and turned back into Bruce Banner. Just like facing Thanos with the Power Stone, Hulk flinched in front of Vegito. Bruce Banner fainted due to excessive use of force. Hands up! Just when Vegito was disappointed with Hulk's retreat, an unpleasant sound came from the distant armed helicopter. Sir, please cooperate with our investigation, otherwise, we will take coercive measures. Seeing that Vegito did not respond at all, the voice from the armed helicopter came again. However, Vegito could clearly hear a tremor in this voice. Coercive measures. Vegito smiled disdainfully. Even if these people can't do anything about Hulk and Hulk, how can they have the strength to use coercive measures against him? Vegito knew that the people on the helicopter were just soldiers delivering messages. That brainless general actually wanted him to be captured without mercy. Forget it. It's time to let some people know that I'm back. The light wave in his hand appeared again and was gently thrown to the sky. The light waves of the file size of rice grains emitted as dazzling light as the sun at this moment. Whether you can survive depends on your luck. Vegito lowered his head and looked at the unconscious Banner. This time the light wave, Vegito only used a little bit of power, fearing that it would blow up the earth accidentally. However, even so, it is still more powerful than a small nuclear bomb. I am afraid that not even a speck of dust will be left in this town. However, with such power, Hulk in that state just now might be able to barely survive. The next moment, Vegito disappeared. Boom. At this moment, the entire United States could see it, and a second sun seemed to light up in the sky. As the light dissipated, a huge crater with a diameter of hundreds of kilometers appeared in place. In an office building of S.H.I.E.L.D., the current S.H.I.E.L.D. director, Nick Fury, at the moment is like an ant on a hot pot, walking around in the office. Just now, the dazzling sun lit up the entire United States. S.H.I.E.L.D.'s detectors have already shown that it is not the sun, but a super bomb with the power of a nuclear bomb. Sure enough, it didn't take long for the satellite to detect a file-size hole in the city below. Immediately afterwards, an encrypted video file from the military department was delivered to him. This document describes in great detail the origin of the second sun in the sky and what happened to the disappeared city some time ago. After watching it, Nick Fury could no longer calm down. Boom, boom, boom. There was a knock on the door. Come in. Nick Fury quickly sat back in his director's seat. Natasha Romanoff, Phil Coulson, and Maria Hill walked into the director's office one after another. These three people are all high-level agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and they are his absolute confidants. Director, why are you calling us here in such a hurry? Natasha Romanoff asked immediately. The director usually summoned them individually, but now that he summoned them all at once, something big must have happened. Today, did you all see that ball of light in the sky? Nick Fury asked three subordinates. Definitely, it's hard not to see such a dazzling ball of light. Phil Coulson was the first to answer. Is it related to that energy ball? Hill asked cautiously. Definitely, you should watch a video like this first. The three of them are all high-level agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick Fury was very relieved to hand over this confidential document to them for viewing. "Oh, I have to work again, but I finally took a day off," Phil Coulson said reluctantly. Today he was supposed to have his car serviced. However, immediately after, the entire office fell into silence for an instant, and everyone was shocked and speechless. Even watching Nick Fury for the second time could not erase the shock in his heart. Oh my God, is this really the power that humans can have?" Natasha Romanoff said in disbelief after watching the video. "Whether you believe it or not, this thing really happened. These are photos taken by satellite." Nick Fury took out several photos taken by WeChat and threw them in front of the three of them. A city is now in ruins. But fortunately, because of the battle between the Hulk and the Abomination, the military had already evacuated the city before. So the casualties were not serious, and most of them were soldiers present. Nick Fury once again reported to the three explained. "What, do you have any opinions to express?" After explaining everything, Nick Fury motioned for several people to speak freely. "Director, you don't want us to deal with such a monster?" Black Widow Natasha Romanoff asked Nick Fury with some uncertainty. No matter how confident she is in her own skills, encountering such a monster is absolutely no different from giving her head to someone. Our SHIELD's responsibilities are specifically designed to deal with various strange events and protect the safety of the Earth. And this matter is obviously within the scope of our responsibilities. Director, what is the approximate level of this matter? Hill, who is also the Deputy Director of S.H.I.E.L.D., asked Nick Fury. After my preliminary identification, the level has been temporarily determined as a Level 12 security incident. It is also the only Level 12 security incident for our S.H.I.E.L.D. After thinking for a moment, Nick Fury made a decision. Level 12, we don't even have Level 11 events, right? Natasha Romanoff said with some confusion. You know, even the Hulk incident was only a Level 7 incident. Tesseract is SHIELD's only Level 10 mission right now. Yes, you know, I feel the results of the detectors in our bureau. The energy ball sent out by an alien has an energy index comparable to the Tesseract. Hiss, several people couldn't help but gasped. Director, this alien is so powerful, Natasha Romanoff hesitated. No matter how strong the opponent is, we cannot retreat, because the entire Earth is behind us. Director, he may not be an alien, Hill said with some uncertainty. Hill turned again and looked at the face on the screen. She had definitely seen this face before. As the Deputy Director of S.H.I.E.L.D., Hill obviously has more power than the other two. How is this possible? He came to Earth on a spaceship, Phil Coulson said in disbelief. There are various indications that Vegito is the Earth that came to Earth in a spaceship from an alien planet. How could they not be aliens? Hill ignored Phil Coulson, but turned on the computer and started to query something using his deputy director's authority. Found it. In just a moment, Hill found a document from more than 10 years ago and opened it. This. How could it be him? At this moment, even Nick Fury was so surprised that it was difficult to close his mouth. Immediately afterwards, his brows knitted together deeply. The picture in the profile shows Vegito as a boy, with a kind smile on his face that makes people feel good. In the photo, the boy is enthusiastically helping others. We are in trouble. Phil Coulson, help me contact Professor. Although that incident had nothing to do with S.H.I.E.L.D., the impact was so great that S.H.I.E.L.D. included it in the album. Unexpectedly, he is back. It seems that the Earth is going to be in trouble. What should we do? Yes, although Phil Coulson didn't know why, he immediately went down and started contacting Professor X from X College. Director, who is he? Natasha Romanoff asked in confusion. She could tell that the two photos were obviously of the same person, but more than 10 years had passed and the boy had grown up, but he was still carved from the same mold. However, how could a person who was on Earth more than 10 years ago come to Earth again in a spaceship? In the end, what happened? Of the three people present, only Natasha Romanoff didn't know what was going on. Hill and Nick Fury had obviously seen the information. His name is Vegito, and he attended Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters more than 10 years ago. Nick Fury took a deep breath and explained to Natasha Romanoff. Mutant, Natasha Romanoff said nervously. But why did the mutants leave Earth? Natasha Romanoff continued to ask Nick Fury. Yes, he was once a good boy, sunny, kind, and willing to help others. Looking at the photo of Vegito as a boy again, Hill couldn't help showing pity. Kind, helpful, Natasha Romanoff couldn't connect the cosmic villain who destroyed a city with his wave to being kind and helpful. Okay, don't ask so many questions that you shouldn't ask. Nick Fury interrupted Natasha Romanoff, who wanted to continue asking questions. Natasha Romanoff, you are responsible for investigating Vegito's whereabouts. Remember, never conflict with him. The power Vegito has now is beyond our ability to compete. Nick Fury ordered Natasha Romanoff. Yes, Director. Although she was full of doubts, as an agent Natasha Romanoff also knew very well that curiosity can sometimes kill the cat. Reappearing, Vegito has returned to New York. Looking at the familiar scenes on both sides of the street, Vegito couldn't help but miss the feeling of home back then. Unfortunately, his family can no longer be with him. Subconsciously, Vegito walked towards his former home. When they reached the door, Vegito still didn't take a step. This house was the only thing left to him by his adoptive parents. Likewise, it is Vegito's only memory. After taking out the key from his pocket, Vegito did not open the door immediately. Instead, he hesitated at the door. Back then, as soon as Vegito walked to the door, his adoptive mother would appear on time and open the door from the inside. Who are you? While Vegito was recalling his past memories, a cold voice came from behind Vegito. Huh, Vegito looked back subconsciously. Vegito. Even though she hadn't seen him for decades, she still recognized Vegito immediately. Gwen. Similarly, Vegito also recognized the woman in front of him. Immediately afterwards, a fragrant breeze came to my face. Gwen still fell into Vegito's arms and gave Vegito a big hug. Vegito's adoptive father was also a police officer and was a colleague and good friend of George Stacy, who was not yet the police chief at the time. This also led to Gwen and Vegito becoming childhood sweethearts. Great, Vegito, where have you been all these years? I thought I would never see you again. Hugging Vegito tightly, Gwen tried not to shed tears. Said somewhat untrue. She seemed to be worried that as soon as she let go, Vegito would disappear again. Gwen has always considered Vegito her best friend. But one day, her best friend suddenly disappeared. Gwen vaguely remembered that when she was still young, she pestered her parents every day to find Vegito. But never got any useful information. Even the parents told Gwen that the Vegito family went to a very far away place and would never come back. When she was a child, she didn't understand where she went. It wasn't until she grew older that Gwen understood what her father said. To this end, Gwen has been helping others since receiving her ability. She lost her best friend, which made her understand that with great ability comes great responsibility. Because of Vegito's presence, the friend became Vegito, not Pete Parker. By the way, where are your uncle and aunt? Have they come back with you? Seeing Vegito again, Gwen thought that she had misunderstood her father's meaning. It seems that the Vegito family really just went to live in other cities. They can never come back. After thinking for a moment, Vegito said while holding back his grief. Gwen instantly realized that he seemed to have done something bad. I'm sorry, Vegito, I didn't mean to. Gwen immediately apologized to Vegito. It's okay. I will make those who have hurt my family pay the price one by one. Vegito clenched his fists. Well, Vegito, I can help you too. Gwen expressed kindly that now she does have the ability to help others. By the way, I haven't seen you for so long. My parents also miss you very much. Come to my house. My father has been nagging you and wants to see you. With that, Gwen took Vegito's hand and walked towards her home. Back then, Gwen's father and Vegito's adoptive father were famously good brothers, and they even bought a house together. They even joked many times that they would become an in-laws couple in the future, and they would get closer and closer to each other. Gwen, who was teased, always ran back to her room with a shy look on her face. Vegito could feel that Stacy's family was kind to him from the bottom of their hearts. So, he let Gwen pull him towards his house. Stacy's family was also very surprised when Vegito came back. Gwen's mother immediately went into the kitchen and started cooking her own special dish. Gwen's father, George Stacy, also immediately put down his work and came back from the police station. Vegito, that's great. We haven't seen each other for so many years. You have grown up. Seeing Vegito back, George Stacy was happy from the bottom of her heart. If my old friend could see that his son has grown so big, he would definitely be very happy. Uncle George, long time no see. Vegito, since you are back, Uncle will definitely protect you. You don't have to leave again. At that time, George was just an ordinary policeman. Although he knew a little about his friends. But he had no access to those things and couldn't control them. But it's different now. Now he is the sheriff of the entire New York City. He is also a public figure in the entire city of New York. George didn't believe that those people dared to deal with him as unscrupulously as they had dealt with the Vegito family. Thank you, Uncle George, but I can protect myself. Vegito can feel that George Stacy really wants to help him. Those things are not easy for even the police chief to deal with. If he is not careful, don't look at George Stacy now being the sheriff. If something happens to him, he won't end up much better than Vegito's adoptive father. However, today's Vegito has the ability to protect himself. Vegito even dares to assert that there is currently nothing on Earth that can threaten him. He is no longer the boy who needed parental protection more than 10 years ago. It is Vegito, the god of destruction in the universe who makes countless civilizations fearful. Vegito, trust Uncle, now Uncle has the ability to protect you. In George Stacy's view, Vegito is just a child. How will a child live after losing his parents? George had seen countless examples at the police station. Now, since Vegito is back again, George cannot let Vegito live the life of a wanderer again. Yes, Vegito, I can protect you too. Even Gwen waved her delicate little fists, revealing her cute little tiger teeth. Brother Vegito, stay. You are not the one. You disappeared last time, and my sister was sad for a long time. Even Gwen's two younger brothers were also playing assists. Definitely, they are telling the truth, and everyone in Stacy's family knows this. Oh, Vegito looked up at Gwen. No, Gwen retorted quietly, but he immediately turned his head away, avoiding Vegito's eyes, and two red clouds quietly appeared on his cheeks. In that case, let's trouble Sheriff George. When he came back this time, Vegito had no intention of leaving in a hurry. What's more, Vegito now has the strength to protect everyone he wants to protect. How about I go clean up the room and live next to Gwen's room? Gwen's mother promptly added. Sure, no problem. In this way, at the kind invitation of Gwen's family, Vegito lived in Gwen's home. Gwen was chirping, pulling Vegito to talk. After not seeing each other for so many years, she had so many things to say to Vegito. Gwen's mother went to clean up Vegito's room. To celebrate Vegito's return, Gwen's mother cooked a sumptuous meal. However, these meals were obviously not enough for the Vegito Saiyan's appetite. So, after dinner, Vegito expressed to the Gwen family that he wanted to go out for a walk. Gwen immediately volunteered to go out and accompany Vegito. In the past, Gwen had been doing heroic deeds in various places in New York at this time. But today, in order to accompany Vegito, Spider-Woman did not appear among the high-rise buildings in New York. In this regard, Gwen said that even superheroes need a holiday. Under the leadership of Gwen, Vegito found a particularly large cafeteria. At the same time, a stealthy supersonic aircraft flies over New York. Didn't alarm anyone. However, Vegito still felt a familiar breath flying over his head. What's wrong, Vegito? Noticing Vegito's sudden stop, Gwen immediately turned around and asked. It's okay, let's go in. Vegito took Gwen's hand and walked towards the cafeteria in front of him. Although she had just eaten, Gwen did not refuse. Vegito pulled her into the cafeteria. Half an hour later, Gwen finally saw Vegito's terrifying appetite. Originally, after Gwen herself was bitten by a mutant spider, she became stronger and stronger, and the amount of energy she needed to absorb naturally increased. In fact, sometimes Gwen can eat 5 adult meals by herself. You know, she is just a high school student now. But now, in front of Vegito, Gwen realizes what a real big eater is. In just half an hour, Vegito had eaten food for at least 10 people, and his speed has not slowed down at all until now. It looks like it has just begun. But that's okay, Gwen thought again. At least, when I'm with Vegito in the future, I don't have to hide it anymore. Otherwise, if I go out and eat more than my man, that would be embarrassing, right? Vegito, who was eating his meal, suddenly noticed that Gwen's cheeks began to turn red. Just when Vegito was confused, Vegito felt another strange energy coming nearby. This aura seems to be a combination of human and lizard. It seemed that he was coming for Gwen. Similarly, Vegito can naturally perceive the unusual energy in Gwen. This energy isn't that stable yet, and it seems like it hasn't been long since Gwen turned into Spider-Man. At the same time, Gwen's spider telepathy also gave a signal. I'm going to the bathroom, please wait for me. Gwen stood up and said to Vegito, and then left here as if running. She didn't want to implicate Vegito. After all, in Gwen's mind Vegito is just an ordinary person. In a hidden military base, a plane landed slowly. The plane door opened, and a young man pushed a wheelchair out of the plane. It is none other than Professor Charles, the principal of Mutant School, and his student, Cyclops Scott Summers. Haha, welcome to come from afar, Professor. Nick Fury walked out immediately and greeted Professor X. Director, you are very polite. I don't know my old friend this time, which made the director look for me in such a hurry. Professor X also replied politely. In some ways, S.H.I.E.L.D., which is in charge of all special events in the United States, naturally has more contact with Mutant, and its power is quite large. Therefore, Professor X is relatively polite to Nick Fury. This matter is of great importance. I also invite the professor to come to my office to discuss it in detail. Nick Fury's expression became serious. He made a gesture of invitation and automatically led the way. Oh, Professor, I wonder if we can talk alone. After arriving in the office, Nick Fury said to Professor X again. Okay, Scott, you go out first. Professor X turned around and said to Scott, who was pushing him. But Professor, Scott obviously wanted to refuse. You must know that although Professor once something happens to Professor X, it was a nuclear disaster for Mutant. Don't worry, Scott, nothing will happen. Professor. Okay, Professor. Phil Coulson, go and entertain Mr. Radiant Eyes. Nick Fury ordered Phil Coulson at the same time. Yes, Director. Phil Coulson took Scott out and closed the door. Director, can we talk about something now? Professor X asked Nick Fury again. Professor, before we talk, we might as well watch a video first. A projection popped up. Nick Fury stood up and turned Professor X's wheelchair in the direction facing the projection. The video given by Nick Fury is quite detailed, and S.H.I.E.L.D. even found satellite photos of Vegito entering the Earth. This is a spaceship. Professor X saw a spherical spacecraft flying from space to the Earth in the video. Aliens, but why would Nick Fury say it's about my old friend? Professor X thought in confusion. Until the moment the man in the video walked out of the spaceship, Professor X could no longer sit still. It's him, Professor. With that said, Vegito is now in the hands of Nick Fury. Professor, even Professor, Director, please give this child to me, no matter what the conditions. Professor X turned to Nick Fury and said, Professor, he is not in our hands, nor in anyone else's hands. Please read on. With doubts, Professor X continued to watch the video. Immediately afterwards, Professor X no longer had any surprise in his heart. All the surprises had turned into shock. He actually became so powerful and destroyed a city as soon as he came back. Seeing that his once most kind and sensible child had become like this, Professor X shed tears of regret. What Vegito is doing now is clearly inconsistent with his theory. If he had been tougher back then, maybe he wouldn't have suffered so much, and maybe things wouldn't be like this. You must know that Vegito is his most ideal heir. Vegito is different from other children because his parents did not reject him, so Vegito does not have much malice towards ordinary people. This is something most mutant kids don't have. Vegito agreed with all of his ideas back then, and sometimes that child could even bring him new inspiration. In Charles's mind, Vegito has always been his most ideal successor. Charles even once trained Vegito as the next professor of X College. But now, what did Professor X see? That kind-hearted child just came back and killed people in a city. He is even more extreme than Magneto. There is absolutely no respect for life as before. Professor, Nick Fury pulled Professor X back from his memories. You have seen what happened, and we hope you can help us. His threat is too great. Even the most ferocious thug is only 1/10,000th of him. Nick Fury once again persuaded the police. He knows Professor. Thugs. You said my students are thugs. However, things obviously did not go as Nick Fury imagined. Professor X, who had been a good guy all his life, became angry at this moment. Vegito is not a thug, you are the real thugs. If it weren't for you, a kind boy, how could he be like this? Charles pointed at Nick Fury's nose and cursed. Perhaps this was the first time in the life of the good old Charles. Swear someone once. Professor, I take back what I said before. He was indeed a kind and good boy back then, and what happened back then had nothing to do with S.H.I.E.L.D. I can swear that. Seeing Professor, I need Professor X's help. There are no born bad people, only good people who become bad. But, Professor, what he is doing now is indeed a great threat to ordinary people. Now he is even more dangerous than Magneto. Nick Fury once again started to persuade Professor X from the perspective of justice. How do you want me to help you? After calming down, Professor X asked Nick Fury. I hope you can help us catch him. Nick Fury stated his request directly. Okay, the X-Men can help you, but after catching the person, I hope it can be handed over to our X Academy. Professor X also made his own request. Impossible, Nick Fury said firmly. Even if I agree, it's impossible for anyone else to agree. Nick Fury added again. Although Vegito has just arrived for a day, the impact is too huge. Neither Congress, the military, nor General Ross nor Stryker would let Vegito go. Although they haven't jumped out now, when Vegito is caught, they will definitely not let go of such a piece of fat. Moreover, this powerful weapon must be in your own hands to be safest. Then, I won't agree. Professor X decisively refused and turned to leave. He really pretends he doesn't know what kind of persecution mutant is suffering now. If he helps these people catch Vegito, yes, if Vegito falls into the hands of those people, Professor X may never forgive himself in this life. Do you really have the heart to let your students deal with ordinary people unscrupulously? Seeing that, Professor, I will go find Vegito, but I will not help you deal with my students. Professor X said firmly. If you do this, it will only make mutants' situation more difficult. Nick Fury once again tried to retain Professor X. What do you want? Professor X stopped the wheelchair and turned to Nick Fury again and asked. No, we just want to protect New York. You can see what he looks like. He has great strength, but he has no good impression of the United States government. Nick Fury also knows that he cannot blindly press forward step by step. The professor, even in the S.H.I.E.L.D. file, Professor X, who has always been kind to others, is far more dangerous than the Wild Hulk. S.H.I.E.L.D. has had countless discussions about Professor X. If Professor X and Magneto exchange their ideas, maybe the United States has already become the world of mutants. After all, Magneto's power is only to control magnetism. Although it is powerful, it is not impossible to deal with it. Facing Professor X, the entire United States may be helpless. You know, there are few people in the world who can block Professor X's mental power. According to you, all-powerful power must be in the hands of the government. We just want to better protect the people. The Agent King knows how to negotiate from a favorable angle. Ha! Protect the people. Professor X smiled. How many times have we X-Men protected people? We have never asked for anything, we just hope that people can accept us. Mutants and humans are one family. But, what did we get in the end? The forces that persecuted mutants still have the support of the government. Even more than 10 years ago, I couldn't even protect my students, which made him what he is now. Professor X mutant has struggled for his whole life, but his social status has been declining day by day. I'm very sorry. What happened in the past has happened and I can't do anything about it. But in the future, S.H.I.E.L.D. can help X Academy to the best of its ability. Facing the angry Professor X, Nick Fury gave in and gave him preferential treatment. If it is because of himself that Professor, you have also seen Vegito's power. He can easily destroy a city. With such power, even Magneto is probably far inferior to him. It is almost impossible for us to use force to subdue him. Professor X explained to Nick Fury. Yeah, Nick Fury nodded in agreement. The strength displayed by Vegito was indeed terrifying. This is also the direct reason why they found Professor X. You know, in terms of energy, there is probably no one on the entire planet who can compete with Vegito. Maybe one of his friends who left Earth could do it too. Definitely, Nick Fury also understands that strength is not everything. Magneto is also very strong, but doesn't he still have to wear a helmet to protect himself from Professor X? Congress will not allow Vegito to fall into the hands of mutant, but I can guarantee you that if you can really convince Vegito, he will join the superhero team directly under S.H.I.E.L.D. in order not to push Professor. Definitely, Nick Fury has his own selfish motives for arranging this. If S.H.I.E.L.D. really controls Vegito, then the power of S.H.I.E.L.D. will directly increase more than 10 times. Okay, but I hope you can guarantee Vegito's personal freedom, Professor. Perhaps, S.H.I.E.L.D. will be the best destination for Vegito. If Vegito knew what Nick Fury was thinking at this moment, he would definitely laugh, as mortals also try to master the power of gods. It's nothing more than a fool's dream. Nick Fury, who had a very happy conversation, personally put Professor X on the plane. Goodbye again, friendly, Nick Fury vaguely reminded Professor X to move as soon as possible. Then he, reluctantly, sent Professor X away. Seeing the invisible supersonic plane disappear into the horizon, Nick Fury exhaled subconsciously. He, Nick Fury, the current director of S.H.I.E.L.D., once again saved New York. However, before Nick Fury could relax, Phil Coulson's voice sounded again. Director, Natasha Romanoff just sent a message saying that Vegito was found in a cafeteria in New York. Phil Coulson cautiously reported to the director. Cough, cough. The matter has not been completely resolved, and it is not time to relax yet. Go ahead and ask Natasha Romanoff to follow the other party. Do not offend the target person. At the same time, do not let those who are short-sighted provoke the target person. Nick Fury was afraid that if Professor stopped by Vegito in downtown New York, his days as S.H.I.E.L.D. director are coming to an end. After all, New York is different from the town that had all its residents evacuated. Yes, Director. Phil Coulson went down and immediately handed over the task to Natasha Romanoff. At the same time, Natasha Romanoff, who was secretly observing Vegito in the cafeteria, almost collapsed. Originally, it was not for Natasha Romanoff, an ordinary person, to track a humanoid nuclear bomb like Vegito. But fortunately, as long as Natasha Romanoff doesn't provoke the other party, she just follows him honestly. As for dealing with Vegito, that's completely out of Natasha Romanoff's business. Natasha Romanoff feels that although the task is difficult, she just needs to follow Vegito safely. She can even help Vegito solve some unnecessary troubles. Just in case some ignorant person accidentally angers Vegito and makes Vegito angry again. She can even use this to establish a good relationship with Vegito, and then she will naturally have someone with a backing. After all, Natasha Romanoff is also one of the few level 8 agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. In these cities, it is more than enough to solve some minor problems. Finally, Natasha Romanoff found her chance. The female companion who had been with Vegito left Vegito's side. Although striking up a conversation in a cafeteria may seem a bit inappropriate, Natasha Romanoff is confident in her charm. Especially against a young man like Vegito. However, the next moment, Natasha Romanoff couldn't be happy anymore. Boom! A wall in the cafeteria collapsed, and a green-skinned lizard-like monster rushed in. Chapter 11. Oh my god, why would such a monster appear in New York? In order to get closer to Vegito, Natasha Romanoff deliberately removed all weapons. However, such a monster could push a wall with bare hands, let alone deal with him with bare hands. Even with all the equipment, Natasha Romanoff is just an ordinary person. How could it be possible to deal with such a monster? If faced with such a monster alone, Natasha Romanoff would not panic even if she was defeated. But the key is that the person sitting there is Vegito. A wolf Yan who can easily destroy a city. You know, Natasha Romanoff, who could escape from Dr. Lizard, had no chance of survival at the hands of Vegito. After all, she couldn't escape from New York anytime soon, besides, she couldn't escape. Now, Natasha Romanoff could only pray that the lizard monster didn't anger Vegito. Unfortunately, things often don't go as imagined. At this moment, reality is also facing Natasha Romanoff. With the appearance of the lizard monster, everyone around was running away frantically. Stay away from Dr. Lizard. Only Vegito still sat there calmly, not moving at all. At the same time, Dr. Lizard also noticed Vegito and walked step by step towards the dead man who was not afraid of him. In Vegito's eyes, the monster in front of him was pitifully weak. Even if he sat there motionless, the big lizard would not be able to hurt him at all. Bang, bang, Dr. Lizard walked towards Vegito step by step. With every advance of Dr. Lizard, Natasha Romanoff's throat almost reached her throat. If Vegito was accidentally offended, not many people in New York could survive. But now she didn't bring any weapons. Fight. Seeing Dr. Lizard getting closer and closer to Vegito, Natasha Romanoff couldn't sit still anymore. No matter what, we need to lure Dr. Lizard away first. If they were ordinary super criminals, Natasha Romanoff would definitely let them fight among themselves first, and finally reap the benefits. But Vegito is a super nuclear bomb, once it is detonated. I dare not imagine the consequences. Natasha Romanoff stood up, ready to stop Dr. Lizard. At this time, things took a turn for the worse again. A figure in a white spider battlesuit rushed out, swinging the cobweb, and kicked Dr. Lizard away from Vegito. Natasha Romanoff finally couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. She definitely knew that the person in front of her was Spider-Woman, who was known as New York's good neighbor. S.H.I.E.L.D. has long recorded Spider-Woman in its books. Because the other party has been doing good things, S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't even bother to investigate further and let it go to fight crime. Hey, it's dangerous here, please leave here as soon as possible. Spider-Woman, who kicked Dr. Lizard away, immediately turned back to Vegito and said, "If Vegito gets hurt because of her, Gwen will blame herself for the rest of her life." However, Gwen was still a little happy to be able to stage a wave of beauties rescuing heroes, and the person she saved was her brother Vegito. Even if brother Vegito doesn't recognize me at this moment, I still have to perform well in front of brother Vegito. Spider-Woman began to gear up and turned to Dr. Lizard, determined to perform well in front of Vegito. When you go back, give Vegito a surprise and let him know that you already have the ability to protect him. You know, even her father has not told Gwen Spider-Woman's identity, and now, Gwen plans to tell Vegito. As Spider-Woman and Dr. Lizard battle, the entire street is empty. Vegito, however, was still sitting calmly at the dining table, concentrating on eating the food in front of him. Definitely, I would occasionally raise my head to take a look at Gwen's battle situation. Contrary to what Gwen thought, Vegito could clearly tell the aura on Gwen's body the moment he saw her. So Gwen changed her outfit and it had no effect in front of Vegito. Definitely, in Vegito's opinion there is still a little difference. For example, the tights accentuated Gwen's figure even more. If Vegito doesn't leave, Natasha Romanoff naturally doesn't dare to leave either. He could only hide in the corner and look at Vegito with resentment in his heart. Perhaps, in Vegito's view, the battle between Dr. Lizard and Spider-Woman is just a small fight. But from the perspective of an ordinary person, like Natasha Romanoff, watching a battle between super-ables at such a close distance could lead to death if you are not careful. What's even more dangerous is that if those two people accidentally involve Vegito, it will be very bad. Natasha Romanoff can only pray that the battle between Spider-Woman and Dr. Lizard ends as soon as possible and does not affect Vegito. Fortunately, under Gwen's deliberate control, the battle between the two did not affect Vegito at all. Even during the battle, Gwen was carefully observing whether Vegito would be injured. This also resulted in Gwen's battle becoming more difficult. In Vegito's opinion, Gwen's energy level was originally a little lower than Dr. Lizard's. But Gwen also has her own advantage, and that's spider telepathy. If the two really fight against each other at full strength, Gwen, who has spider telepathy, will even be better. However, because Gwen had not prevented Vegito from being affected and injured, he began to retreat steadily. Not only Vegito, but also Dr. Lizard, who was fighting Gwen, also noticed something unusual about Spider-Woman in front of him. It seems that Spider-Woman really wants to protect that ordinary person. Dr. Lizard lifted a large stone as high as a person and headed towards Vegito. Oops. Gwen ignored spider telepathy's frantic warning and immediately shot out Cobweb. She grabbed the big stone but was punched in the back by Dr. Lizard, which hit her hard. Almost lost the ability to fight anymore. It's over. Natasha Romanoff's heart almost went cold as she watched Dr. Lizard take action against Vegito. Fortunately, Spider-Woman immediately blocked the attack. Although Spider-Woman was injured, in Natasha Romanoff's opinion, Spider-Woman is undoubtedly the one who saved the entire New York. Little Spider-Man, thank you so much. You are my savior. If the situation didn't allow it, Natasha Romanoff would have wanted to pick up the fallen Spider-Man and kiss her twice. Although Spider-Woman is injured now, Natasha Romanoff knows that the top priority is Vegito. After all, no matter how much trouble Dr. Lizard makes, his strength is there. But Vegito is different. That's a wolf that can destroy a city accidentally. There is no room for carelessness. I don't know how nervous Natasha Romanoff would be if she knew that Vegito could destroy a planet with just a random punch. The situation is urgent, and Natasha Romanoff has to step forward even if she doesn't want to. Sir, this place is very dangerous. Let's get out of here first. Natasha Romanoff suppressed her trembling, walked out and said to Vegito. After all, although Natasha Romanoff is unwilling to face Vegito, at this time Vegito seems to be easier to talk to than Dr. Lizard. Vegito ignored Natasha Romanoff and stood up with a frown. Started to look at Dr. Lizard. Really? Following Vegito's movements, Natasha Romanoff's heartbeat skipped a beat. It seems that Vegito was finally angered by Dr. Lizard. I just hope that Vegito can show mercy and not vent his anger on the entire city of New York. Director, it's not that Natasha Romanoff is incompetent, it's just that the task you gave her is too difficult. I really can't do it. Natasha Romanoff looked desperately inwardly. Now, it seems, she can only find a way to take which Spider-Woman away further. On the other side, Dr. Lizard was walking towards Gwen step by step. With Spider-Woman's flexibility, if he wanted to escape, Dr. Lizard would not be able to catch up to Gwen. But in Gwen's eyes, Vegito is just an ordinary person. If she escaped, it would be almost impossible for Vegito to escape from Dr. Lizard's hands. So she can't escape. Even now she was seriously injured. She also wanted to stay and continue fighting. But Gwen obviously didn't notice at the moment. The brother Vegito whom she wanted to protect. They are walking towards them step by step. As Vegito approached, Dr. Lizard seemed to notice something. Looking up in the direction of Vegeta. How dare a mortal walk towards him unscrupulously? Is he risking his life? Dr. Lizard had no idea at all. He was already in trouble. As Dr. Lizard turned to look at Vegito, Spider-Woman also looked worriedly in Vegito's direction, fearing that Dr. Lizard would be detrimental to Vegito. Hey, be careful not to come here, Gwen said in shock as Vegito approached step by step. In desperation, he even revealed his true identity. He didn't notice at all that Natasha Romanoff, who was following Vegito, was giving her a wild look to signal Spider-Woman to run away. Gwen Stacy. Dr. Lizard immediately noticed that Spider-Woman's voice seemed very familiar. Because Gwen once interned at Osborne Company, served as Dr. Connor's assistant. So Dr. Lizard recognized Gwen in a matter of moments. Oops. Dr. Lizard's identity was revealed, and Gwen instantly realized that the situation was not optimistic. With Dr. Lizard's character, she would definitely use her family as a threat. Dr. Connor is now crazy. There is no moral bottom line as a human being. What should we do now? Gwen was completely panicked. The whole situation seems to be under Dr. Lizard's control. That man seems to be very important to you. Dr. Lizard pointed at Vegito on the side and said to Gwen. He suddenly had a funny idea. He wanted to make Spider-Woman completely regret for hindering him time and time again. Let her know that going against Dr. Lizard will not end well. Dr. Lizard stood up and turned towards Vegito. Aunt, tell me, how do you want to die? Dr. Lizard walked towards Vegito. At the same time, he was thinking about how to kill Vegito in front of Gwen. No, don't. At this moment, Gwen was completely panicked and struggled to stand up to stop Vegito. But she was seriously injured. It's over, it's completely over now. Natasha Romanoff looked at Dr. Lizard who had walked in front of Vegito. At this moment, her heart had become cold. At the same time, I almost scolded Dr. Lizard 18 times in my heart. You said you can't live a good life. You must seek death. S.H.I.E.L.D. contains all the information about superheroes and supervillains. Although Dr. Lizard came out not long ago. But S.H.I.E.L.D. also has information that belongs to Dr. Lizard. Dr. Lizard is not even as dangerous as Hulk, so how can he be compared with Vegito? Mortal, you don't seem to be afraid of me. Dr. Lizard walked up to Vegito and looked at the calm Vegito in front of him, feeling confused for a moment. Oh, are you worth being afraid of? In Vegito's eyes, the Dr. Lizard in front of him was the kind of being who had to deliberately control his strength even if he wanted to kill, but could accidentally blow up the earth. What's there to be afraid of? However, Dr. Lizard obviously doesn't know this. After being like this for so long, this was the first time he saw a human being who wasn't afraid of him. Haha, human, I'll give you a chance to live. Dr. Lizard took out a green potion from his tattered white coat. Inject it, and you will become as strong and powerful as me. Dr. Lizard suddenly thought, if the person Spider-Woman cherishes becomes like this, will the righteous Spider-Woman kill her relatives out of necessity? What an interesting question. Natasha Romanoff, the high-level agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., took advantage of Dr. Lizard to hold Vegito back and quietly came to Spider-Woman Gwen's side. Let's run away. Natasha Romanoff carried Gwen on her back and immediately started running quickly away from Vegito. No, I can't leave, I have to save him. Gwen struggled to stand up. Who to save? Are you the only one who needs saving here? Girl, can't you see that I'm trying to save you? That Dr. Lizard, thank God if you can see a trace of his ashes tomorrow. If you run slower, you might have to keep company with your enemy. At the same time, Natasha Romanoff couldn't help but feel more favorable towards Gwen, even though she was so injured, she still wanted to save her. No, I must save him. Gwen said firmly. She had just found Brother Vegito, how could she lose him again so quickly? Spider-Woman, trust me, grab a man and he'll be fine. Natasha Romanoff said to Gwen very sincerely. After all, based on the strength that Vegito has shown, even if the entire United States is gone, he won't be able to do anything. But, Gwen obviously didn't believe what Natasha Romanoff said. In her opinion, Natasha Romanoff only said this to stabilize her. Even with good intentions, she had to save her brother Vegito. Natasha Romanoff is also very desperate inside. This Spider-Woman's sense of justice is too strong. Vegito's identity is highly confidential and cannot be told to her. This task is too difficult. When she returns this time, she must resign to the director. The kind that cannot be retained unless the salary is increased. Okay, I promise you to go back and save him, but you are injured now. If you want to follow my command, you must not act randomly, you know. That's it. Natasha Romanoff knew that if Vegito really wanted to take action, she would not be able to escape New York in a short time. In this case, is it still necessary to run? Natasha Romanoff put Spider-Woman off her back and began to walk back. God, please bless me and bless the residents of New York. Natasha Romanoff prayed deep in her heart. Natasha Romanoff left Gwen behind her back, and Vegito naturally knew it. It just so happened that he didn't want Gwen to see his too cruel side. As Gwen and Natasha Romanoff left, Vegito extended his hand to Dr. Lizard. Has anyone ever told you that you look disgusting? Vegito said to Dr. Lizard disdainfully. You. Dr. Lizard was angry. An ordinary person dared to mock him like this. Really desperate. In anger, Dr. Lizard immediately took action. Punch Vegito hard. He wanted to turn the hateful human being in front of him into flesh. However, the fist was halfway out, but could no longer be deposited. At the same time, Dr. Lizard felt as if a mountain was half pressing on him. It became difficult to move all over. Shisho, I will give you the death penalty. Go. As Vegito finished speaking, Dr. Lizard completely disappeared in front of Vegito, as if he had never appeared before, leaving no trace. If it weren't for the surrounding ruins, no one would have thought that a battle had just occurred here. As Dr. Lizard was eliminated, Vegito's figure disappeared in the next moment. Just a moment after Vegito eliminated Dr. Lizard to the dregs, Natasha Romanoff returned again with Gwen. Vegito, where are you? Vegito and Dr. Lizard were seen disappearing. Gwen could no longer hide her identity, so she collapsed and shouted. Who? Unlike Gwen, Natasha Romanoff took a deep breath and relaxed a lot. Although she lost her target, she at least saved the entire city of New York, right? When you go back, you must ask the director to apply for additional performance. Even without seeing it with her own eyes, Natasha Romanoff could roughly guess the ending. That Dr. Lizard who loves to seek death has probably gone to see the beloved god at this moment. Without seeing Vegito, Gwen could no longer care about the pain in her body and broke away from Natasha Romanoff's support. Run forward desperately. It's all because of me, Vegito. Gwen sat on the ground blaming herself. Obviously I was inspired to be a superhero, and I obviously wanted to protect Vegito, but the result was. Hey, silly girl, what are you doing squatting on the ground? Just when Gwen was almost desperate, Vegito's voice came from behind her. Vegito. Gwen looked back quickly, ignoring the tears on her face. What's wrong? Then why is Ms. Spider-Woman sitting on the ground crying? Vegito comforted Gwen with a smile on his face. I don't know how long it had been, but no one had shed tears for him like Gwen. The last time seemed to be before he left the Earth. A boy less than 10 years old broke into the cold universe alone. He could not trust anyone but himself. No one will believe it. He has no friends, only a group of subordinates who succumb to his power. At this moment, Gwen's tears made Vegito feel a trace of warmth again in his heart that had been frozen for more than 10 years. Knowing that Vegito was fine, Gwen could no longer bear it and threw herself into Vegito's arms. I thought you. At this moment, Gwen no longer cared about hiding her identity. At this moment, nothing is more important than Vegito. Even Dr. Lizard has completely forgotten about it. Okay, am I okay? Don't cry anymore. Vegito took off Gwen's hood and gently wiped away the tears on her face. Are you seriously injured? Do you want me to take you home? I want you to carry me. Good. Vegito and Gwen fed Natasha Romanoff a lot of dog food. If I couldn't beat him, I would. Natasha Romanoff, who was standing aside, suppressed her inner impulse. The Vegito in front of me looks like a warm man. He doesn't look like the great demon king who destroyed the world at all. I really wish I had a boyfriend like this. In front of outsiders, he is a big devil, but in front of himself, he is a warm man. Bah, Natasha Romanoff, you have to calm down. All of this is just a disguise. People like Vegito who have experienced hardships in their childhood will definitely think, I would rather teach me to betray the world than teach the world to betray me. That kind of persona. Maybe Dr. Lizard has been crushed by him now. Vegito carried Gwen on his back and ignored Natasha Romanoff beside him. Vegito knew about Natasha Romanoff's appearance from the beginning, but just ignored her. After all, elephants don't care about ants at their feet. Moreover, the gap between Vegito and them is far greater than the gap between elephants and ants. Seeing as Natasha Romanoff kindly wanted to save Gwen, Vegito didn't intend to make things difficult for her. Gwen, on the other hand, was completely immersed in getting along with Vegito. At this moment, her face was completely buried in Vegito's back out of shyness. How could she still remember her savior? Seeing Vegito leaving with Gwen on his back, Natasha Romanoff really didn't have the courage to follow him. Vegito, I want to eat mutton skewers. Gwen, who was lying on Vegito's back, had completely recovered her energy at this moment. After the two left, they were in no hurry to go back. Instead, he responded to Gwen's request and found a new food court to go shopping. And Gwen's clothes naturally changed back to the ones she had when she came out. As for how it was changed, it's not difficult to guess when you think about Gwen's red cheeks at the moment. Okay, Vegito carried Gwen on his back to a roadside stall selling barbecue. At this moment, there is a customer here eating mutton kebabs while chattering his ideas to the barbecue restaurant owner. Moreover, he seems to be an acquaintance of Vegito. Yes, your life is still difficult, but material things cannot solve life, old age, illness and death. When you lose a loved one, you will cry. But do you still believe that these will not be problems in the future world? The people in front of them didn't notice the arrival of Vegito and Gwen at all, and they still tried their best to fool people. The skewers are ready. The owner of the barbecue restaurant was obviously completely immune to Liang Bing's language. This woman in front of me looks very beautiful, why is she crazy? The boss thought in confusion. Yeah, Liang Bing casually took the barbecue and planned to continue talking. Just looking back, the person next to me seemed familiar. Chen Bu Mu Sao. Liang Bing couldn't help but cursed in his heart. How come I can meet him in such a small place? Could it be that this guy secretly followed me to spy on my beauty and plans to have with me on such a remote planet? He thought, but Liang Bing also knew that this was almost impossible. After scolding Carl 10,000 times for sending her here, she planned to sneak away quietly before Vegito noticed her. At that moment, I didn't care about continuing to sell the meat to the barbecue restaurant owner. I picked up the skewers, stood on tiptoes, and wanted to sneak away. Liang Bing. Just when Liang Bing was about to slip away, Vegito called her. After all, Liang Bing will not hold back on Earth, and there are almost no forces on Earth that can resist Liang Bing. What if Liang Bing accidentally hurts someone Vegito doesn't want to hurt? Hey, sir, you are here too. What a coincidence. Liang Bing stopped slowly, turned his head stiffly, showed an awkward smile, and said in a flattering manner like a dog licking. As the famous demon Queen Morgana in the universe, Liang Bing obviously recognizes Vegito. She is not one of those indigenous people on Earth, so how could she not know the famous god of destruction in the universe? I've definitely heard of the deeds of the god of destruction. She even once used the banner of the god of destruction to oppose her sister. After all, the name, God of Destruction, sounds like an evil god. It's good to have a powerful god of your own camp. It's not in vain. In addition, what the devil does is somewhat similar to that of the god of destruction. Maybe she, Morgana, has been running around the universe all these years and has reduced the workload of the god of destruction. However, even though he said that, when he actually saw the god of destruction, Liang Bing couldn't help but feel nervous. Although Liang Bing once had a relationship with Vegito, he still gets along with a person who can destroy him at any moment. There is always pressure. What's more, according to rumors, Vegito's temper is not that good. After all, Liang Bing is not so arrogant that her fourth-generation divine body can afford her to show off in front of Vegito. Liang Bing, who has lived for 30,000 years, obviously knows how to survive better in this cruel universe. So unless there are special circumstances, she never goes against gods who are stronger than her, except for her sister. Is it possible that he found out that I used his name to defy my sister, so he came to Earth to find me? Otherwise, I had just been on Earth for less than a day, and why would I have met the god of destruction? No wonder Liang Bing thinks this way. Among the 6 creation-level gods in the universe, even gods at Liang Bing's level are not so easy to encounter. Unless these 6 great gods come to you, how can you encounter them by chance in such a vast universe? Liang Bing would not believe that there were so many coincidences in the world. I have to say that in just a few years, I met the god of destruction twice in a row. I don't know, but Liang Bing is lucky. Still unfortunate. Why are you here? Vegito asked Liang Bing. Evil gods like Liang Bing usually appear on a planet, and the good days of that planet are basically over. I'm here. I'm here to buy barbecue. Liang Bing explained forcefully. Then Liang Bing saw that on the back of the majestic god of destruction of the universe, there was actually a girl from Earth. Oh my god, this is even more incredible than seeing a demon and angel falling in love. Subconsciously, Liang Bing opened his insightful eyes and looked at Gwen on Vegito. He's just an ordinary person. How could he be so close to the god of destruction? Liang Bing thought with some confusion and began to look through Gwen's information. What did she find next? Vegito is a child. Oh my god. The strongest man in the entire universe, the god of destruction who was forced to squeeze into the creation level with the body of the future god, is actually just a kid in his early 20s. Thinking about it again, it seems that god of destruction has become famous only in recent years. As for 10 years ago, there was no news about Vegito at all. Almost every god in the universe has a very long history. There are not many people like Vegito who have no news before. At that moment, Liang Bing felt as if he had lived in a dog's belly for 30,000 years. In less than 10 years, he has grown from an ordinary person to one of the strongest gods in the entire universe. What kind of creature is it? This is simply unscientific. In fact, Liang Bing felt that he might not have been as surprised as this day in the past 10,000 years. Wait, he only has 20 years of growing experience, wouldn't that mean? Liang Bing's eyes began to roll. It seemed like he had a good idea. You must know that every god in the universe has a very long history. Not to mention the other 5 creation-level gods, they have existed since the birth of the universe. In terms of age alone, 30,000 years between Liang Bing and Kesha is really not a long time. This also means that these gods have their own mature thinking. But the Vegito in front of me is different. He only has 20 years of life. No, a god's life. This means that his values are very easy to change in the eyes of gods like Liang Bing. After all, for Liang Bing, even if it takes 10,000 years, if he can pull Vegito into his own camp, it will be a worthwhile endeavor. You know, if she can stay with Vegito for 10,000 years, she is different from other gods who are so long that they just sleep for 10,000 years. 10,000 years from now, she will definitely occupy a very important proportion in Vegito's life. At that time, Vegito was standing behind him, and torturing Kesha was no longer just for fun. The most important thing is that Vegito has grown to where it is now in just 10 years. Who knows what it will be like in 10,000 years? The next moment, Liang Bing's eyes looked at Vegito and began to look innocent. She wants to cultivate the male god in front of her into a male god who belongs only to her. Liang Bing has plenty of time, at least from Liang Bing's point of view. 20 years is just a blink of an eye. However, in the blink of an eye, you can occupy half of the place in the heart of the god of destruction, one of the most powerful gods in the universe. Is there a more cost-effective deal in the universe than this? What's more, Liang Bing knows that most of the 6 creation-level gods in the universe do not have a role in fighting. Only the god of destruction is a professional god of battle. This means that although they have almost the same divine power, one is a civilian and the other is a warrior. In a fight, it is obvious which one is stronger and which one is weaker. From this moment on, Liang Bing has decided to spend the rest of her life training Vegito. For a male god like Vegito, there is nothing wrong with being his guardian angel. Liang Bing has even thought of Vegito helping him beat Kesha. Carl, you are really my lucky star. You just found a place and sent me to the hometown of the god of destruction. It's amazing. Liang Bing didn't realize at all that she seemed to be scolding Carl just a moment ago. Sir, are you here to eat barbecue too? Mine has just finished, come and let me feed you. Liang Bing ran to Vegito with an attentive look on his face, looking like a licking dog. Brother Vegito, who is she? Unlike Vegito who looked at Liang Bing's behavior curiously, Gwen couldn't help it immediately. Although this woman has some brain problems, she can't help but have a pretty face. Even her body, figure is a little better than hers. Relying on his good looks, he shamelessly came to please Brother Vegito. Didn't you see that Brother Vegito already has a girlfriend on his back? Sister Gwen, you can call me Sister Liang Bing. I often hear Vegito mention you. I am Vegito's friend, a very good friend. Liang Bing winked playfully at Gwen. Use the information you got from Gwen to return. After saying that, Liang Bing even hugged Vegito's arm in front of Gwen. Liang Bing didn't care at all about Gwen's provocation. After all, she had lived for 30,000 years and she couldn't compete with a little girl. You. Seeing Liang Bing hugging Vegito so boldly, Gwen was stunned for a moment. In front of Morgana, the demon queen who has lived for 30,000 years, Gwen was still too immature and was immediately frightened. She even began to wonder if she was really Brother Vegito's girlfriend. How else would he recognize Vegito and even know her name? Looking at the abnormal Liang Bing in front of him, Vegito frowned. He doesn't believe that the demon queen who has been in the universe for 30,000 years is a fuel-efficient waiter. However, he did not expose Morgana at that time. After all, Vegito did not want to expose his identity as the god of destruction to Gwen too early. What on earth are you here for? What exactly are you here for? Vegito asked Liang Bing again. It must be that you did something like that with someone last time, but ended up leaving them alone and running away. Didn't I come here specifically to find you? Oh, Vegito obviously didn't believe Liang Bing's nonsense. It's up to you, but it's best not to do anything that would displease me. Vegito didn't care what Liang Bing came to Earth for, but if he offended himself, even the Demon Queen, who was notorious throughout the universe, wouldn't survive the next moment in his hands. I will definitely not do anything to make you unhappy. Let me follow you, Mr. Vegito. Liang Bing showed a dog-licking smile again, and stood obediently in front of Vegito like a good girl. Behind him, he obviously planned to follow Vegito. Regarding Liang Bing's behavior, Vegito was completely unfazed. After all, the Demon Queen is just a bomb if she puts it there, so she might as well keep it with her in case Morgana does something bad. However, Vegito obviously doesn't know that Liang Bing plans to follow him for 10,000 years. He definitely wouldn't know that from this moment on, Liang Bing would follow him almost all his life. Unlike Vegito, Gwen behind him had strong objections to Vegito agreeing to Liang Bing follow him. In addition, Liang Bing's words are easily misunderstood. Gwen suddenly lost her mind. However, I will not give up. After all, I am Spider-Woman. Compared with this woman who is useless except for her appearance, I can protect Brother Vegito. Gwen subconsciously clenched my little fist. Gwen had to admit that Liang Bing was indeed beautiful, but compared to this vase-like woman, she was the real good wife to Brother Vegito. However, if Gwen knew that the beautiful woman with a brain problem in front of her was a real god, and the queen of the entire demonic civilization in the universe, she could destroy a civilization like the Earth with a wave of her hand. Who knows what she would do next? What do you think? After sending Gwen home, it was naturally impossible for Vegito to live in Gwen's house anymore because of Liang Bing. In this regard, Gwen was naturally full of resentment. Fortunately, Vegito's house is not far from Gwen's house. If she wants to go, Gwen can go to Vegito's house at any time. Sister, who is the beautiful big sister next to Brother Vegito? After Vegito and Liang Bing left completely, Gwen withdrew her longing eyes. Behind her, Gwen's brother asked Gwen. She's just the licking dog that Vegito always hates, Gwen said viciously. Gwen obviously didn't like this Liang Bing who disturbed her and Vegito's world. And on the way back, Liang Bing behaved like a licking dog, constantly trying to please Vegito. No, you must be fully prepared. Gwen had decided that she would never admit defeat no matter what. Hit Liang Bing and drive her away from Vegito completely. ... Inside Xavier Academy for Gifted Youth, Professor X's office. Professor, why are you in such a hurry to come to me? Chin asked as she stood in front of Professor X, holding a stack of books. Chin, I have some good news for you. He is back. Vegito is back, Professor X said to Chin with a smile. Snap, the book in the violinist's hand fell to the ground. The tears in his eyes could no longer stop falling. Vegito, Professor, you are saying that Vegito is back, right? Chin said tremblingly. She has been a monster since she was little, and even in Mutant, she is treated as a monster. No one wanted to be her friend at all, knowing that boy appeared. She just had her first friend and her only friend. To this day, she still remembers that she had nightmares almost every night when Vegito just left. Professor, where is he? I want to find him, Chin said impatiently. Chin, I know you miss Vegito very much, and I miss him too, but it's too late now. You go back and have a good rest. We will go see him every morning. Professor. Well, Professor, I understand, thank you. Chin wiped the tears on her face and regained her excitement. By the way, Chin, there is one more thing I want to ask you. Seeing Chin's mood gradually recovering, Professor X continued. Okay, Professor, if I can do it. Vegito is back, but he has changed a little. When the time comes, I hope you can help me persuade him. After all, you are all my best students, Professor X said again. Persuade Vegito? Chin asked with some uncertainty. Because she was still too young, she didn't know much about what happened back then. But Chin saw that her best friend, her father, was dead, and her mother was gone too. She could only watch Vegito's heartbreaking cry, but could do nothing. Until Vegito left her, completely left X college. But things are different now. Chin is no longer the little girl who couldn't control her ability, but could easily lose control. Now, she can initially master the Phoenix Force and can already help Vegito. Why didn't the professor ask her to help Vegito instead of persuading him? Do you want to persuade him to just surrender? For the first time, Chin didn't understand Professor X. Yes, Vegito has not only come back, but has become very powerful. We have to advise him not to hurt others wantonly, Professor X explained to Chin. After what happened with Vegito, I vowed never to give up on any student again, but that incident has always been on my mind, but it's different now. Vegito is back. Not only can we make up for the past, regrets, and can create a better future. Professor. He believes that both Vegito and Chin can be better than him. However, Professor X did not realize that Vegito was no longer the same Vegito. Now Vegito, after 10 years of killing, will never be as kind, trusting, and respectful of life as he was before. Okay, Professor, I will advise Vegito. Chin said sadly. Sometimes, Chin doesn't understand. With the professor's strength, if his attitude were tougher and not as weak as now, Mutant's situation would definitely be a little bit better than it is now. After all, those organizations that persecute Mutant can try to organize Magneto, but it is difficult to target the unpredictable Professor X. However, the professor did not do that. Instead, he insisted on his own ideas, regardless of countless suffering compatriots, and wanted to live in harmony with the forces that persecuted mutants. Is this possible? Those forces will only regard the professor's concession as weakness and fear. Then start making progress step by step. There is nothing wrong with being kind to others, but it also depends on who you are. If he is a villain, he should reveal his weapons. Let him understand that he is not easy to mess with. Sometimes, Chin kept thinking that if the professor and Magneto exchanged positions, Mutant's situation would definitely be much better. After all, no matter how strong Magneto is, he can only destroy a city. But the professor can threaten all ordinary people on the planet. Those high-ranking officials and rich people are not afraid of Magneto, but they are afraid of Professor X. This is why, even though Although Chin was a little confused about what the professor was doing, it was nothing compared to the fact that she would see Vegito soon. This time, I will protect Vegito no matter what. I never want to lose my only friend. Chin secretly made up her mind. She must protect Vegito this time, even if she is against the professor. Although Chin subconsciously felt that the professor would never take action against Vegito. Although the professor just said that Vegito has become stronger. But Vegito was only a second-level mutant back then. Even if Vegito has become stronger through these years of experience, how much stronger can it be? But she is different, she is one of the few Omega-level mutants on the planet. You know, Professor X and Magneto are just Alpha-level mutants. The professor once said that if the Phoenix Force in Chin's body fully explodes, even if he joins forces with Magneto, he will never be Chin's opponent. But Chin has been unwilling to use this power, and even rejected the Phoenix Force. But Jean is willing to use this power for Vegito's sake. Walking out of the professor's office with great expectations, Chin was excited at the thought of seeing Vegito tomorrow. Even his face couldn't help but smile. Hi, Chin, are you happy? Scott walked towards Chin and asked. Scott joined X Academy later than Chin and Vegito. Unlike Chin and Vegito who had been attending X Academy since childhood, Scott only gained Awakening's ability in high school. Come to Xavier Academy for gifted youngsters. This is the case in the original work. Naturally, Chin didn't have much affection for Scott, who had been approaching her intentionally or unintentionally since he came to X Academy. Since Vegito disappeared that year, Chin even closed her heart for a long time, which is why, until now, Chin has no second friend besides Vegito. An old friend I haven't seen for many years is coming back, so I'm just happy. After receiving the news about Vegito, Chin's mood obviously improved a lot. Oh, what kind of friends? Scott asked with some surprise. After all this time, he had never seen Chin have any friends, and there were even very few people she talked to. Probably the kind of friend who is willing to sacrifice everything for him. Chin replied without thinking. After saying that, he left without looking back. We are going to see Vegito soon, and Chin has to prepare for it tonight. Watching Chin leave, Scott clenched his fists. Scott definitely knew who Jean was talking about. Since coming to X Academy, Scott has been trying to pursue Chin. However, Chin never gave him any chance, even now several years have passed. His relationship with Chin didn't improve at all. Until Scott learned that Chin had a friend in the past, his name was Vegito. It's just a second-level mutant, and a second-level mutant without any ability at all. But he is Chin's best friend and only friend in X Academy. At the same time, Scott also knew that Vegito had disappeared. A second-level mutant disappeared after being persecuted and basically died. And how could a loser be worthy of Chin? Scott believes that as long as he is sincere enough, he will be able to impress Chin. What's more, besides him, Scott, Chin basically didn't even have anyone of the opposite gender to talk to. So he thought he still had a good chance. Not only does Chin look pretty, she also has a charming figure. And he is one of the few Omega-level mutants on Earth. If she becomes his wife, then it is basically a certainty that she will succeed Professor X and become the real leader of mutant. However, after going out with Professor X today, he got the news that Vegito was back. Even, on the way back, Professor. Why, he's a level 2 mutant and doesn't have any special abilities. Why should he take over Professor X's position and become the new mutant leader? Just because of good character. He has been a bodyguard and follower for Professor, and after so many years, who knows what he has become. Now, even Chin has become like this. For that Vegito, she showed a smile that she had never shown him before. Since Scott didn't watch SHIELD's latest information on Vegito with the Professor. Therefore, Scott does not know Vegito's current strength. If you are calm and don't hang around in front of the Professor and Chin all the time, I will treat you as if you don't exist. If you are restless, then don't blame me for letting you see the cruel side of this world again. Scott will also follow the Professor to meet this long-lost fellow mutant tomorrow. At that point, Scott decided to give Vegito a little warning to stay away from Jean. I hope he can recognize it. ... God of Destruction, do you need dinner? Need not. Master, the water is already hot. Do you want to take a bath? Don't want. Your Majesty, do you want some water? No. Do you need to clean the room? Roll. Tet, do you need a bed warmer? ... As soon as he got home, Liang Bing took the trouble to hang out in front of Vegito. No matter how Vegito drives her away, Liang Bing will appear in front of Vegito again before long. It even made Vegito wonder if it would be a mistake to let Liang Bing follow him. MMP, maybe this guy thinks he has hindered her actions and is deliberately retaliating against him. Vegito looked at Liang Bing in front of him and doubted life. Is this really the demon queen whose reputation spreads throughout the universe, Morgana? No matter how you look at her, she looks like a mentally disturbed and wise girl. Hehe, Your Majesty, the God of Destruction. Realizing that Vegito was looking at her, Liang Bing raised her head and showed a signature smile to Vegito. ... Didn't she realize that my eyes were caring for the retarded? Why did she smile like a retarded person? Vegito began to feel sorry for doubting Liang Bing's IQ. Why should I doubt a fact? Boom, boom, boom. Who is it? Queen Morgana, who had been struggling all night, rubbed her sleepy eyes and got up scared from the bed. Although Shen no longer needed to sleep, Liang Bing couldn't help but fall asleep due to fatigue after a hard night last night. That Vegito is really incompetent. I serve him like that, but I don't even get any reaction. Liang Bing couldn't help complaining. But it's difficult. After all, he is the God of Destruction. If it is really that easy to change, wouldn't it be a little difficult? Liang Bing thought to himself to comfort himself. At the same time, I started to cheer myself up mentally. It's another day full of energy. Hello, is Vegito at home? Outside the door, a tall and beautiful woman knocked on the door. It was Grey Jean. Behind her, Scott was standing, pushing Professor X's wheelchair. Bae, I'm sorry, we went to the wrong place. When she saw Liang Bing opening the door, Chin was stunned for a moment and then said immediately. Wait, this is Vegito's house. Who are you? Why are you here? Immediately afterwards, Chin realized that she had not gone wrong, and then looked at the woman in front of her with a wary expression. Who is she and why does she appear in Vegito's house? Chin couldn't help but wonder in her heart. Who am I to care about your business? This is my home, Liang Bing said without any politeness, occupying the magpie's nest. After saying that, he had to close the door. Not everyone can meet the Lord God of Destruction. Even the God King of the universe like Morgana cannot be met on sight. Liang Bing plans to send Vegito away with a few mortals on his own initiative. Wait, Chin stepped forward quickly, trying to stop Liang Bing from closing the door. However, Liang Bing was not affected at all. In desperation, Chin even used part of the Phoenix Force. Oh, Liang Bing raised his head and glanced at Chin in surprise. On this small planet, you can actually see the Phoenix Force. If it were the full version of the Phoenix Force, it might really be a 50-50 match against her. However, the Phoenix Force in front of her was too weak to even let her face it. Although it is incredible to encounter such raw power of the universe on such a small planet. Even before, Liang Bing could not help but take her back to train her personally. After all, Phoenix Force has grown up to become a god-level powerhouse. However, all this is unimportant compared to meeting the God of Destruction. Not to mention the Phoenix Force that has not grown up, even the full version of the Phoenix Force is no match for a single finger of the God of Destruction. After a while, Qin felt the door begin to close uncontrollably again. "Madam, we are all old friends of Vegito. Can you let us meet him?" Professor X said kindly behind the piano. However, Morgana remained unmoved. She spent the entire last night planning how to completely turn Vegito into her own. It's just dawn, and she hasn't had time to implement her plan yet. "These people are coming. Liang Bing, let them in." Vegito's voice came from behind Liang Bing. "Your name is Liang Bing," Qin said to herself, but secretly recorded the name in her heart. Okay, Liang Bing definitely did not dare to disobey Vegito's words, so he immediately changed his face, welcomed the three people in, and then stood respectfully behind Vegito. The speed of his face change made Qin grit his teeth. "Professor, it's been a long time no see. I miss you so much." Vegito stood up and said to the professor. "Vegito." Qin bit her lip and hesitated. "Well, Qin, long time no see." Vegito also nodded to Qin. "Really, it's been so long, Vegito. You've grown up in the blink of an eye." Professor X also said to Vegito with emotion. Indeed, the child back then had grown so big and become so powerful in the blink of an eye. "However, since you are back, come back to Xavier Academy for Young Geniuses with us. You are still my most outstanding student, and you will lead our mutants' greatest leader." Professor X said excitedly. It has been thought that under the leadership of Vegito, mutant will become stronger step by step. Under the leadership of Vegito, mutants live in harmony with humans according to their own ideas. "Sorry, Professor." Vegito shook his head and rejected Professor X's proposal. "Why?" Qin asked in confusion. "As long as Vegito comes back, they can continue to be together. Because, X Academy and I have different ideas. Both Qin and his old friend are Vegito's old friends." Vegito didn't want to break their hearts, so he declined politely. "I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more."